All right, welcome astute researchers. Here we are, video 7. And today what we're going to talk about is how to library. One of my favorite things about being a millennial is that you get to use nouns and make them into verbs. And so I love that. So we're going to learn how to library today. We'll talk about the difference between what's a lit review and what is an introduction. And then we're going to talk about how to find articles when you do research. So first, let's chat about a lit review. A literature review is a long and exhaustive. Exhaustive means all of the things, not being exhausted, but like you're probably exhausted after you do all of the things. So it's a paper that looks at all of the research about a particular thing. So for example, you might say, well, what's the impact of exercise on depression? A literature review is going to look at all the articles that they can find on the impact of exercise on depression. And it's trying to include everything that's out there. So if it does a search and it looks for everything that has to do with the impact of exercise on depression. Or how does acetylcholine, which is a neurotransmitter, how does acetylcholine affect memory? Here you would do a literature review, which would be looking at all of the articles you can find. And you'd make a really, really good effort to find all the articles that are out there, looking at how acetylcholine affects memory. So we're going to do a real life example here. And so I'm going to do a screen share and show you about finding like a review article. So here we're going to share my screen. I had it up here. Okay, I guess this is what it is. All right, so if we go to PubMed, for example, and we write in attachment and attention. Okay, so I know somebody in class is interested in attachment. So I picked that because somebody mentioned it. And attention is kind of an interesting thing. And so let's see what is out there. And so you go for attachment and attention. And so I've clicked review. So here on the left, and we'll get back to here when we talk about how to library, I've clicked review. So what I'm looking for is only a review article. If I didn't click review, then I would end up having 4,200 results, which is a lot. So I'm going to click review because all I want are the articles that are review articles. Well, I still have a bunch, but they're not all clearly about attachment and attention. So right now I've sorted for the best match, and what I see is this review article on attachment and attention. So it's in the journal Clinical Psychological Review or Clinical Psychology Review from a couple years ago, 2019 of December. Actually, I guess that's 1 year ago. And so the review is about attachment and attention problems, and this is a meta-analysis. So a meta-analysis is a kind of study where they look at all the research and they try to combine the research and figure out what it says overall. And so they're combining it mathematically. And we're not going to go into right now how that happens, but they're mathematically combining numbers from all of the research studies to have some sort of analysis of all the studies, a meta-analysis. So then they can say, well, this is pretty much what everything is saying about attention. Here's the abstract. And then if you wanted to find the article, you would have to go elsewhere to get the whole entire article because the full article is not here on PubMed. Okay, so then we're going to stop and we're going to go back to the PowerPoint screen. Here we are. Okay, so that is a real life example of a literature review. Next, let's talk about how that differs from an article introduction. A lit review is not the same as the introduction to an article. What you're writing here for your research proposal is an introduction. You're not writing a lit review. So you can breathe a sigh of relief because it would take you a long time to research and write a lit review. The introductions are only about 4 paragraphs. You still have to do plenty of research because You need to know enough about the subject so that you can write a good introduction and design a good study. And so you have to know enough, but you don't have to write an exhaustive review. You just are going to write 4 paragraphs that are really pointed toward introducing your study and not pointed toward examining all of the things. So how do you find those articles? Well, that's what we're going to talk about. How do you even find the articles? Several ways to do this. You can go to online, the Von Cannon Library at SVU. You can go to pubmed.gov. You can go to PubMed Central. You can use Google Scholar. There are different reasons to do any one of those things. I'm kind of a fan of either doing pubmed.gov or doing the Von Cannon Library. So let's look at how to do each. I'll share my screen and we are going to go to each of those places. So we're going to go back to Chrome. And here we were on PubMed. So up in the search bar, I'm typing in pubmed.gov. And if you type that in, then you get this search bar and you can search for whatever it is you wanted. We looked before at attachment and attention. Let's look right now at depression and exercise. And what happens is you end up with a lot of results. And this is still with my review thing clicked. If I don't click review, then I have 21,000 results, which is a lot. So you might want to look for these, look at the most recent ones or the best match, or you could specify further. Okay, but I would start with some of these. That's pubmed.gov. Okay, you can do advanced searches. We can talk about that at another time, but not for this video. There's also a place called PubMed Central. And so if you type into the search engine PubMed Central, then you end up here. The difference between PubMed and PubMed Central is that PubMed Central only contains full text, free full text articles. So with PubMed, like for example, that article on attachment and attention, we couldn't access it because we didn't have free text. Now, maybe through the library at Von Cannon, we can access it, but we couldn't access it on pubmed.gov. On PubMed Central, it won't even show up because it is not free full text. So if we say, again, attachment and attention, and we'll search there, it's not coming up. Even if we, well, I don't think you can click review here. So it doesn't come up because you don't have access to it because it is not free full text. So the only things here on PubMed Central are free full text articles. That might be great for you if that's all you need. If you want to search for specific articles, then it might not be so great because it's leaving out any article that is not free to the public, which really leaves out a lot of articles. Now, of course, you can see there are still a lot here. All right, next, let's go to the library. And so if you go to the library, voncannon.svu.edu, what you see here is this little hamburger here on the right. Click on that and you can go to databases. When you're in databases, you can click on psychology. Okay, and if you want to do this yourself, you can just pause the video and do it. Under psychology, they've selected databases that are relevant to psychology. And so you don't have to look at all of the databases here that aren't relevant to you. You just click on psychology and you can go straight to any database that is relevant to psychology. And so some of these are going to be more useful than others. The ones that I primarily use are either Medline or PsycInfo. But honestly, I don't use Medline very much because whatever I need from Medline is probably already in pubmed.gov, or there's more in pubmed.gov than there would be in Medline. And so if I don't see it in pubmed.gov, or if I'm looking for a particular article that's specific, then I might use Medline, but often I'll just go to PsycInfo. And so PsycInfo looks specifically at articles that are relevant to psychology. And so you can create a search here, and we can look for attachment and attention and see what happens. And so what we see here are things that came up with attachment and attention. And we see that there's not, I don't see the one that we had listed on PubMed. So let's see if we can find that one and see if we can meta-analysis. So that's the title, Attachment and Attention Problems, a meta-analysis. And so you can try copying that and going to, oops, I lost us. Here we are, going to there. So you could search this, and I don't think that it is there. So that's frustrating. This happens a fair amount of time with this database, unfortunately, which is kind of why I tend to use the other ones. So that's, I don't see it there, attachment and attention. The other thing you can do, here we are back at the Von Cann library, is you can look at journals and see if that journal, whoops, where's that journal? It's not the one. It's Clinical Psychology Review. And so we can go back here and see if Clinical Psychology Review I can spell, really. I don't see it here. And so it may be that the library does not carry this particular journal. And so here, then the next thing you'd have to do is get it from Interlibrary Loan, or you can email the author. So here we've got the authors, Polini, Morelli, etc. You figure out who to email. Usually it will tell you, but you could just look these people up and see if they can help you by sending you a copy of their article. Authors are generally really happy to do that, and usually I've gotten emails coming back really pretty quickly within a day or two, giving you the article. So that's another option. All right, I'm trying not to confuse you. Next is the, let's see. I know you can't see this. We're doing PubMed and PubMed Central and Google Scholar. All right, so let's take a look at Google Scholar. You probably already know how to do this. Here you just search in Google Scholar. And you have all kinds of articles about attention and attachment here. Again, you may or may not have the full text available. And so I honestly think it's a lot easier to just go to PubMed Central or to PubMed and to grab these from there, or to the Von Cann Library. All right, so I'm going to stop that share. We'll come back to the PowerPoint. All right. So your goal here now is to go find 10 articles. So try this out and see if you can find 10 articles about the topic that you've chosen. And it might not be that all of them are useful. If you find something and you think that it's useful, but then you start reading through it and it's not, then just get rid of it and find some more. So you're back up to 10. What you need to do for your research is have enough information. It's not a particular magic number. I do want you to have 10 articles that you reference, but 10 is not magic. You might have needed 14, or you might have needed, 8 really. But I do want you to try and find 10. So go ahead and try that out. Sum up literature review versus an introduction. A literature review is a really long paper that tries to do an exhaustive job of covering one specific topic. An introduction is setting up the study in your paper so people have enough information to understand why your study makes sense. 4 paragraphs around. You can do more. You really can't do less. Okay. We talked about how to library, looking at pubmed.gov, looking at PubMed Central, looking at the Von Cannon Library. And then you're going to practice finding 10 articles. Okay. Hope this helped you. And I'll see you next time.